was incredible. He was like John Madden. Didn't look like John Madden, but he took a stick and in the sand in the beach, he basically diagrammed the war and where the planes were coming, and these were the Canadians, and here came the English, and it was really very moving. And then you of course go to the cemetery, which is still kept immaculately, and you read stories, and it's just incredibly moving. So if you get a chance to do it, and I did feel it necessary that we just reflect upon the fact a lot of us can say our lifestyle, our freedom is in part thanks to those that gave their lives or just served and are still here and are being honored today in Normandy, 80th anniversary of D-Day. The NBA Finals finally begin tonight. Boston and Dallas. Pete Pranica is going to join us in a minute. We're going to talk about that. The most interesting thing for me about all of this is that now, breaking news, the Lakers are trying to usurp the headlines here away from the finals with their head coaching position. So everybody thought it was going to be J.J. Redick. That was the story yesterday. Can an announcer with no coaching experience really do the job? Well, it turns out, according to Woj and now ESPN, that might have been a smokescreen. They've been targeting UConn coach Danny Hurley as their next coach, and they're preparing a massive long-term contract offer. Tyronn Lue just got an extension. I want to say it was 5 years, $70 million?
Yeah.
So what is that? $14 million a year? Is that what that comes to, or something like that?
Yeah.
So I think Danny Hurley makes about $5 million a year to live in Storrs, Connecticut. Which, by the way, he's done a remarkable job. He's a little insane, but he's more than a little. He's insane. He's crazy. I don't think that he can do some of the things that he did on the college sideline, on the NBA sideline. I'm sure he will not direct some of his antics toward the players. At least he'd be smart not to. But he can always go back to college coaching, right? Ask John Calipari. Ask Rick Pitino. They sure did. If this bombs, he can always go, look, I'm more college guy. But how are you going to turn down? Let's just say it's $12 million a year for 5 years. But they're saying massive long term. Now, if I were the Laker ownership, I wouldn't go more than 5 years because who knows how it's going to work out. And if you think about it, an NBA player, a middling NBA player makes 12 grand, right? I mean, 12 mil. So the Lakers have plenty of money. They can certainly afford taking a chance for $12 million a year for 5 years on a guy that maybe turns their fortunes around. Now, if I'm him and I'm going to make more than double, maybe close to 3 times the amount of money, and wait a second, I'm going to weigh Storrs, Connecticut. Have you ever been there? God, it can be bleak. Storrs, Connecticut, nothing's there except they have a great dairy on campus where you can get great ice cream. Storrs, Connecticut, oops, or Los Angeles, California. Living in Beverly Hills, he can afford to live wherever he wants to. Come on. Danny Hurley's got to take this job, right?
Yeah, from a money standpoint, I wouldn't say he's going to get paid like he's one of the best coaches in the NBA, but certainly command.
What is a massive long-term contract offer? I mean, I can't see how it wouldn't be at least $12 million a year. And you're going to more than double what you're making at UConn. And if you fail, no sweat. You collect $60 million, and some people are saying this is more like $100 million. Didn't Spolster just get a $120 million deal?
Yeah.
So let's say it's $100 million. You collect that, you're set for, well, you're probably already set for life, but you're set for life for sure. And then you go back to college coaching. I don't see how he doesn't take this if that indeed is the way it works. We're going to talk more about that. Pete Pranica, we got to get him on the line here momentarily. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by one of my favorite places on earth. It is Miramichi. It is the place of happy retreat. That's what they say the translation is. They may be stretching that a little bit, but for me it is. It's my place of happy retreat, I can tell you that. It's flat out beautiful. There's just no way around that. You go to Miramichi, you're going to see beauty everywhere, particularly when you play the back nine. There's a meandering stream. There's hills. My favorite hole is the only hole that has a house on it, actually. That is the par 5, number 12. There's memberships, $300 a month. I think there are still some available. You never pay an initiation fee. You never pay for a cart. Those are the differences with other country clubs. The best practice facilities, unlimited range balls. They charge for those now. And this incredible, tough, challenging, beautiful golf course. Now, they have enough tee boxes where you can move up or down depending on your ability. They have great junior golf tournaments like the Bubba National Tournaments there. It's that kind of golf course, and it is in spectacular shape right now. So make your way to the place of happy retreat. 22 minutes from my driveway in East Memphis. Head on out and see the good folks. Tell them we sent you, and enjoy Miramichi. Let's head to Southwind, I believe, is where our man Pete Pranica resides. He is there. So I just hit drop by accident. I'll be darned. It's moved. So we got to get Pete back.
I got you.
Pete Pranica will let us know what he thinks in regards to Danny Hurley. Will his style, will that be effective in Los Angeles? And then we got to talk about some of the nitty-gritty that you're going to get in the playoffs. Yeah, what's interesting is I just read, obviously Boston is the favorite, 6.5 points tonight. I think it's minus 120 all total in the series. But 80% of the bets that are coming in to Vegas, 80% are on Dallas. So that is quite interesting for sure. They've made that line enticing to bet on Dallas. But let's start with the news of the moment. Danny Hurley, I don't know how familiar you are with his style because you're NBA. He's been collegiate coaching, but you've watched the Final Four. He's a nutcase, but he's a heck of a coach. Would he be successful as the head coach of the LA Lakers? Good morning, Pete Pranica.
Good morning, Wolo. He'll be successful if he gets along with LeBron James. How's that? I mean, that seems to be, the bigger issue. It's an intriguing hire by the Lakers, assuming that it goes through. Of course, there had been reporting that J.J. Redick was the front runner, and then Woj reports, well, no, really it was Hurley that was in the lead the entire time. I mean, it's a little bit of an out-of-the-box hire for Rob Pelinka. And I wonder what the reaction, honestly, by a guy like Anthony Davis or LeBron James is. But you're bringing a college coach in here. I don't know how they're going to react. But you would have to think that at some point, Clutch Sports somehow got involved or was at least advised of the situation. So I'm going to be really intrigued to see how it plays out. And the footnote, I was thinking about this morning. Well, I think for J.J. Redick, this is actually a blessing in disguise. Because when you think about one of the most successful coaches of the recent times, Steve Kerr, media, front office, right, and then head coach, and I think that would be a good career track for J.J. Redick. So even though it appears he's not going to get the job, I don't think it's a bad thing for him at all.
I agree. I think, and believe me, I think J.J. Redick is very good at what he does. I don't know if he's as good as Steve Kerr was. He was a fabulous announcer. People forget. He worked his all the way to number one analyst on the Final Four, right next to Jim Nantz. I mean, that's pretty heady stuff to be able to do that from out of nowhere. But Redick is good and he's smart. And obviously, he's a dookie. And I do think he has a chance to be really good. But I'm with you there. I just don't know. Two things come to my mind. One, Danny Hurley's a pretty smart guy, but he's kind of crazy. And I don't know if he's disciplined enough, says he's going to tone things down, if that's the case, that he can really do it.
Well, for an 82-game season and then playoffs, I mean, you can't have the level of intensity that he's been displaying at UConn. You're gonna burn out in short order.
Yeah. And then the other is, you mentioned getting along with LeBron. Is this maybe a signal to all of us? Because LeBron technically is a free agent, correct? Is this maybe a hint that the Lakers are not thinking they're going to retain LeBron James?
That's a very good question. Like I said, I mean, I don't know if Clutch Sports was involved or if LeBron was involved. I can't imagine that Rob Pelinka would not, at least in some way, shape, or form, loop LeBron James into this. Because, LeBron, let's face it, I mean, he's going to be 40 this year, and he is coming to the end of his career, and he wants to win another title. Is Dan Hurley going to be the guy that can lead the Los Angeles Lakers to a title? That seems to be a bit far-fetched. No slander against Mr. Hurley, but it just seems an odd fit all the way around.
Well, in $12 million, I mean, that is the price tag of a middle-of-the-road NBA player now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe great coaches should get that kind of money. Spoelstra is, Tyrone Lue is now. He just got a $70 million 5-year extension. So the money is getting up there for the coaches, and obviously that's so important. But as great coaches go, you still have to have players. Honestly, because look at Pops. Pops is the winningest coach in the history of the NBA, and once his team got old, his W's went down.
Yeah. The other thing too is that the Lakers, a lot of people may not realize this, the Lakers are historically, since the Phil Jackson era, they have been historically very cheap in paying coaches.
Right.
They have gone for the lesser salary number when it comes to their head coach. And so I mean, Danny Hurley coming in from UConn, they can get him at a much more reduced rate than they might some other more, let's say, name brand coach.
Well, according to Woj, it's a massive, long-term, very expensive deal. I'm assuming it's got to be at least the Lue money, maybe not as high as the Spoelstra money.
I mean, Spoelstra's going to the Hall of Fame, and Lue is one of the best coaches in the NBA right now, and one of the best in-game adjusters as a head coach. So, if you're going to put Hurley on a par with those guys, that's saying quite a bit. That is quite a commitment from the Lakers.
Well, we'll see if indeed that is the way it is. It's this crazy story because until this morning, everybody thought it was J.J. Redick's job. I mean, he was the big front runner. I don't know if that was a smoke screen. I don't know if they got cold feet on that, and they got, well, let's try to get this guy. He's won back-to-back NCAA titles. It is intriguing the way the whole storyline is going on the eve of the playoffs, of the NBA Finals finally beginning. Crazy.
It is. It is an interesting time for news to break. And the interesting thing is I think Shams was the guy who had JJ the front runner, and then Woj this morning breaks the Hurley news. So, agents get involved, PR people get involved. You just never know how accurate the reporting is and if somebody's trying to play leverage one against the other. But the finals start tonight, and it's been a long wait, and I'm looking forward to it.
Shams and Woj, they're almost like the Bird Magic Celtics Lakers rivalry, aren't they?
Exactly.
Who do you think gets most of the stories? At least right.
I haven't seen Woj misfire. This was a rare misfire by Shams, because Shams seemed to indicate that Redick was the front runner from day one, and Woj is reporting the exact opposite, that it was Hurley. So something's a little sideways there.
All right, let's get to these finals. Boston is the favorite. Looks like Porzingis is coming back. A lot of great storylines, but while we're talking about coaches, let's talk about these two coaches. Jason Kidd, who played for Dallas when they won a title and now is their coach, against Joe Mazzulla, who frankly has become a really good coach, I think, when he had to take over under weird circumstances.
Yeah, Mazzulla's done a good job. I think he's grown into the job. Like the first year, he was a little truculent with some of his interviews and short with his answers, but I think he's grown into it. Jason Kidd has done a really good job. I mean, he's had some unfortunate coaching stops elsewhere, but he's got a history with the Dallas Mavericks, and I think Nico Harrison, the general manager, who's getting an extension, some good midseason moves have certainly helped them. So it's two young coaches that aren't making maybe tons of money. They're not making Spoelstra money, but they've led their team to the finals, and that'll be a very intriguing coaching matchup. I'm kind of waffling back and forth, but there's something in the back of my brain that says Dallas is somehow going to find a way to win this thing.
So I was going to ask you your prediction. I love the storylines before we give our predictions. When you look at Porzingis playing against his old team, you get Irving playing against one of his old teams that they don't like him there because he really turned his back on the Celtics. You've got the tandems of Brown and Tatum, incredible. Luka and Irving, incredible. I mean, these are great storylines for this thing. Should not be blowouts like we saw in the conference finals.
No, would not expect that. I would imagine that this is going to be a 6-game, maybe even a 7-game series. I think Boston, obviously, they just decimated the league, but, playoffs are a little different. And we've seen with this Boston team, there are times when they seem to take their eye off the ball. It seems kind of odd to say during the playoffs or the NBA Finals, but there have been games where they just, you're kind of like, okay, wait, who are you guys? Are you guys really the Celtics or are you imposters? And I think Dallas is just really, really balanced right now. And like I said, the mid-season additions, I mean, the P.J. Washington piece I think has been great for them, and Derek Lively as a rookie has been sensational. So I think the big question, Wolo, is if you're the Celtics, who's going to guard Luka? I don't know. That's
Jaylen Brown?
Yes, but how successfully? I mean, that's really the question, because Luka right now is on a heater, and he's just playing with a tremendous amount of energy and courage, and he's playing with that edge, and he's got that look in his eye that he will not be denied. So it's going to be a very competitive and maybe even a bit chippy series.
My interest is if it's Brown on Luka, Luka gets every call. If you breathe on him, Jaylen Brown is able to hit people in the face and get away with it. So which one of these stars gets away with the most? That's what I want to wait and see.
All I will say is that Luka whines more than anybody else.
No doubt.
So
no doubt.
Whether or not he gets the call remains to be seen. But Luka complains probably as much as any player in the NBA.
Last thing for Pete Pranica, TV voice of the Grizzlies. The Ringer's Kevin O'Connor has said the Grizzlies probably are trying to work on a trade, moving up to maybe get number 3 Houston. I think it would be for Donovan Clingan. Maybe it's for Alex Sarr. What is your gut feel on that?
My gut feeling is that if you're Zach Kleiman, you're going to want to try to move up. That news coming out of Houston, Houston threw that out there probably to gain a little bit of leverage. The Grizzlies front office does not leak about anything.
Right.
So, this is coming from Houston, so take it with a grain of salt. But I would imagine Zach Kleiman's going to explore all options, and you're at 9. You'd certainly love to get into the top 3 or 4. And, I have no direct knowledge of anything, but I would imagine Zach Kleiman is trying to see what better deal could be out there to get a player that they really want, whoever they've identified as the ideal pick for them.
You've got Dallas, is that what I heard?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Dallas in 6.
I'm gonna say Boston in 6. There we go.
Okay.
We've got our differences. We'll bet a beer on that. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. We'll talk next Thursday.
All right, sounds good, Wolo.
That is Pete Pranica. He is the TV voice of your Grizzlies. When we come back to Louisville, Kentucky, we go. Paul Rogers on the Belmont, which is not at the Belmont, by the way. It's at Saratoga. We'll have him break down the Belmont Stakes, but also we'll talk about Scotty Scheffler and the incident with the Louisville Police Department at the PGA at Valhalla. That comes your way in just a minute.
Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
There are many real estate companies out there, but then there's Banyan Tree Realtors on the Cotteville Town Square. There are hands-on, family-owned boutique real estate companies whose agents have been offering exceptional attention to their clients for over 40 years. In an ever-changing world, Banyan Tree continues to maintain a small-town personal charm while providing a worldwide connection through its internet marketing presence. personal service will never go out of style at Banyan Tree Realtors. Their agents are people you can trust, offering service you deserve. From residential homes to commercial properties, farmland, land lots, and historical houses, Banyan Tree has the expertise you can rely on. So if you're downsizing, upsizing, moving in, or moving on, give Banyan Tree Realtors a call today. Craig Smith and Mary Jean Smith and their agents are ready to serve you. Call today at 901-620-8920 or 901-359-2520.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Granger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call, hit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
If you love sports and Mexican food, you can get the best of both at Los Cabos Mexican Bar and Grill on Summer near Grand. Watch all the big games on all the big TVs on all the walls at Los Cabos. And enjoy premium tequila shots anytime for just $5.50. Celebrate every day with lunch specials from 10 to 3 and happy hour from 3 to 8. Lunch is just $6.75 to $10.99 and margaritas start at $3.99. Experience real Mexican cuisine along with great sports at Los Cabos on Summer near Grand.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Feel worse, less paper.
It was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic. Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
There's an institution in East Memphis that I love talking about. It's the Spirit Shop at 4848 Poplar Avenue, right down the street from Clark Tower, and it looks like a log cabin. It's been around Memphis since 1969 with a family-owned, friendly, knowledgeable sales staff that is just a wonderful place to go. I love going in and talking wine or bourbons, and they've got such great selection. So if you've not visited the Spirit Shop in a while, it's been remodeled. You'll love what you see when you need spirits. Tell Eddie Wolo said hello.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio
Time to head to Louisville, Kentucky. Our track analyst, our Triple Crown historian, that would be the voice of the Louisville Cardinals, by the way, Paul Rogers, who joins us now. You had Sierra Leone, if I recall correctly, in the Derby, which was a fantastic Derby. Didn't go your way. Trying to remember, who did you have, Paul, in the Preakness?
You would ask me that. I can't.
I know it was not Seize the Gray. I can tell you that.
No, it was not Seize the Gray. He had won on Derby Day in the Pat Day Mile, but I just didn't see him getting the lead like he did in the Preakness and wiring the field. They ran a very good race, very fast race. But did I pick Sierra Leone again? I picked him in the Derby, and I think I might have picked him again, but I can't.
I think you did.
We put it out of our mind quickly and move on.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to breaking down the Belmont, which is, by the way, not at the Belmont, it's at Saratoga, which we'll get into. But I have to ask you about the PGA, Valhalla, the Louisville Police Force, what people were saying over the Scotty Scheffler incident with the Louisville police officer, which, both have said was a total misunderstanding. There were felony charges, and Scotty was in orange flannels, but all has now been dropped. Give me your thoughts on what occurred in your hometown.
Well, as is usually the case when things like this happen, there is so much over-the-top reaction from people of all sides who, to be blunt, don't know what they're talking about. and I don't mean that as a knock at them. I'm just saying people are so quick to jump to conclusions without really knowing everything that went on. I mean, I woke up that morning. I was woken that morning by a text from a friend about who was actually in town for the tournament, and the text said, "What a mess." I'm like, "What the hell is he talking about?" And so, boom, I started into it, and right away it's, the PGA will never come to Louisville again. This police force is a mess. And somebody else, Scotty Scheffler should have stopped just like everybody else. And everybody's just jumping off the cliffs about everything. And in the end, I mentioned this to you the other day when you and I were just chatting, the two people who were most reasonable and realistic about the whole thing were Scotty Scheffler and the police officer, who I'm sorry, his name escapes me. But in the
Gillis, I believe.
Yes,
Officer Gillis.
Yeah. In the end, what they both said was something that people just are so reluctant to recognize, and that is we were both in very uncomfortable situations and did not have all the information that we wish we had had, and sort of reacted as people react when they're caught in a situation totally unawares. Scotty had been told, go on in. This police officer was not part of the normal Valhalla detail of the week. He had been called in because of the accident. He was somehow told, don't let anybody in. Scotty was told, go ahead, you players can go on in. And it was just a collision of circumstances and miscommunications, etc. And in the end, both have said, I wish the other no ill will. Scotty was a gentleman through the whole thing. The police officer maybe was a little over dramatic about some things, but in the end, when they looked at it, they dropped the charges, which I think was the right move. But I just get so infuriated at the overreaction to everything that happens out there in the social media world, where everybody immediately has these expert opinions when they don't have the information needed to make those opinions.
Well, I think, honestly, and I'm trying to be as objective as I possibly can, and going back to Scotty Scheffler, it's tough to be a policeman. We need policemen. And yes. I admire policemen. And, you know, a cop leaves his family every morning really wondering, am I coming back today? And with the state of cities in America, that is a real fear. But in this case, this guy, Gillis, first of all, didn't have his body cam on. So there's a no-no. He's already been disciplined for that. And he's had other things. And he claimed that he was dragged. There's no video of him dragging, but there is video of him jumping on the car. And he apparently was really upset and wanted these charges to stick, and they basically said no. I mean, but cooler heads prevailed. And I will say this too. Obviously, everybody knew, maybe except Mr. Gillis, that this was a mistake right off the bat, because if you are in orange flannels in jail, you don't get out until you go before a judge. And he did not go before a judge. He made his tea time.
Yeah, and of course now there's a lot of reaction to that. Oh, he got preferential treatment. Most people can't go in and do that. Well, that's correct. Most people can't, because most people aren't Scotty Scheffler involved in a high-profile situation with all this video, and you know they addressed it as best they could under the circumstances and were as expedient as they could be. And remarkably, he made it for his tea time. And I actually played well that day. It sort of seemed like maybe there was a hangover effect where he really struggled the next day, and then came back the final day and was, played his normal self. So he could argue, it could have cost him the tournament. Who knows? But he certainly had one day, and you know how those things are. Right after something, you're on adrenaline, and you kind of keep going, and then you go to bed and wake up the next morning and you're totally drained. And to me, that looked like exactly what happened to him on Saturday.
I agree. All right, let's get to the race before we run out of time. Here is the Belmont, not at the Belmont. It's at Saratoga. But as you reminded me earlier in the week, this is not the first time this has happened.
No, in fact, that happened fairly recently when they moved to Saratoga during the COVID year, when the thing was all out of whack schedule-wise and everything. And actually, if you want to go back through the whole history of the race, it has been run at other parks way back in the days. I think Jerome Park ran it once. There was another track, but it has become the current schedule of Derby, Preakness, Belmont has been in place for a long time, but not for all the time. And there have been exceptions. In the COVID year, they moved it to Saratoga because it was run. I forgot now even what the date was, but they changed the dates and they changed the order. And the reason they're moving it to Saratoga this time is because Belmont is undergoing an extensive renovation. In fact, it's basically a rebuild. And because it's at Saratoga, and because Belmont Park is a 1.5-mile track, and so a 1.5-mile race is just once around the track, Saratoga is a 1.125 track, and to run a 1.5 you'd have to start right in the middle of a turn. So they've made this year's Belmont Stakes, like it was a few years ago, the COVID year, a 1.25-mile race. So it's a little bit different, but it is still a good test. It's a terrific race, really a good lineup there.
Oh, I agree. I think you got Mystic Dan. I think he's the first Derby winner to run in all 3 races since 2019, 5 years.
Probably so. I know that's become a rarity, and you've got some others coming out of the Derby too, including Sierra Leone, who lost by a whisker and ran about 2 miles further in the Derby to get barely beat. He had such that wide trip, and you got some others coming out of the race, and 2 others. Seize the Gray being one of them, coming out of other races on Derby Day, but not the Derby itself.
So, but Seize the Gray won the Preakness, so you've got the winner of both the Derby and the Preakness in this thing. You've got Sierra Leone, who is the favorite at 9-5. Then you've got another horse that I really don't know much about, Mindframe, coming out of the 10-hole that is 7-2. So that's the number 2 favorite in all this.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, although he's been very impressive. He's only run 2 times, but he's won by a bunch both times. And the second one of those was what I was referring to a minute ago. That was one of the earlier races on Derby Day. He has not run against this caliber of horses, at least proven this caliber of horses, but he sure has been impressive in what he's done so far. And you're right, he's actually the second choice in the morning line, which surprised me a little bit. They're giving an awful lot of credit, but that just tells you how impressive his 2 races have been. He's the second choice behind Sierra Leone, with Mystic Dan actually the third choice.
I know. A Kentucky Derby winner, the third price, who's really been pretty good, considering first in the Derby, second. He was second in the Preakness, was he not?
Correct. Yeah, he was second in the Preakness.
And then there's a long shot everybody's talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's Antiquarian. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. He won the Peter Pan, which is a race that horses. There's usually a Peter Pan or 2 horse in the Belmont every year. It's another 3-year-old race that was run back on May 11th, the week after the Derby, and he won that race. And horses coming out of that race have had a pretty good history. He's 12-1 in here, but he's trained by Todd Pletcher and bred by John Velasquez, so he's got the credentials in his people the people around him, as well as what he's done so far. If I were to break away, I think the top 3 choices to me are the obvious 3 choices. If I were to want to throw in somebody at a price, I'm kind of fascinated by the Wine Steward. He's 15-1 morning line. He's been first or a very close second in all 5 of his races, including the Peter Pan. He was barely beaten by Antiquarian in that race. He's 15-1, so he's one I would probably throw in if I was looking to see if I could hit something at a price.
Yeah, I've read about him. Yeah, Wine Steward and Antiquarian are the 2 horses outside the top 3 that are getting, or top 4, I guess I should say, that are getting the most press. Those 4 horses, though, Seize the Gray, Mystic Dan, Sierra Leone, and Mindframe, those seem to be the horses for this race. So you tell me how it's going to break down.
Well, I'm going to stick with Sierra Leone again. By the way, I'm a little surprised they had made a rider change here. Flavian Pratt's going to ride him, who's a very good jockey. In fact, personally, I'm a big fan of his. But Tyler Gaffleone, who had ridden him in his previous races, at least his previous 3 races, has now moved over to a long shot protective. I'm not sure if that lugging in issue that Sierra Leone has been dealing with that created a bit of controversy in the Derby. I don't know if that's part of the reason why the jockey change or not, but it's there. But anyway, I do still like Sierra Leone. I think all things being equal, he's a little better than Mystic Dan. As I mentioned, he ran a much further distance than did Mystic Dan in the Derby to barely get beat by him. So he would still be my pick. He's going to come from behind like he usually does. And then, I give Mystic Dan a lot of credit. He won the Derby. He was second of the Preakness. He was right there. And then Mindframe, I can't ignore because he's been so brilliant in his first 2. And then, as I said, just kind of to throw in a price, if I wanted to pick a 4th, it would be the Wine Steward. So I'm leaving out Seize the Gray, which is a little risky, but I'm just not convinced he's going to come back and run that well again.
Okay. Well, remember that.
Yeah, I hope so. So we couldn't even remember the Preakness 3 weeks ago.
is Belmont, by the way, is that going to be ready for next year's race?
I don't think so. It's a massive project they're doing, and I think it's going to be. I don't know if they have determined whether it will go back to Saratoga again or just move it at Aqueduct. It's kind of weird what they're doing. Aqueduct is running right now, and they're calling it Belmont at Aqueduct because these are the dates that normally Belmont Park runs. But they just moved it to Aqueduct, which is close by, and then they moved this little 4-day meet up to Saratoga just to make it kind of like a little fair meet around the Belmont.
Can they run a mile and a half at Aqueduct?
I believe it's like Saratoga. I believe it's a mile and an eighth, so you run into the same problem there.
See, that's my thing. I think the Belmont has to be a mile and a half. It's the only time these horses ever race a mile and a half. It's part of the whole thing of the Triple Crown. You got to have the mile and a half race.
I agree, although, again, it has not always been that way. It has been in our lifetimes. It's the way we associate it, and I think it should be, and I think it is different when it's not. But if you go back years and years of this, it wasn't always run in this order or at these distances or at these tracks, but that has been the traditional way that we all think of, and I think they will, always try to continue to do that. Sometimes circumstances just don't allow.
Paul Rogers, voice of the Louisville Cardinals. Last thing, I don't think I asked you this before, and I know football's coming, but we think basketball when we think Memphis and Louisville mainly. What's your impression of Pat Kelsey?
Very impressed. I don't know him that well yet. I've met him, and we talked just briefly on a couple of occasions. But he certainly has come in with a high energy injection, which this place sorely needed after 2 very somber and sad seasons. So he injected a lot of enthusiasm. He's killed the portal. He's completely, and I mean completely 100% changed the roster. There's not a player back from last year. He went heavily into the portal, brought a couple of guys with him from Charleston. Nobody knows till you put a team together and see him perform on the floor, but everything I've heard about him and people say about him who know him talk about how enthusiastic and energetic he is and gets results. I mean, now he hadn't coached at the Power 5 level, but every Hall of Famer started somewhere.
Right.
He has been successful wherever he's coached, and people are very hopeful that things are going to get turned back around here, and Louisville basketball is going to look like Louisville basketball again.
I'm with you. I think if you've coached at the collegiate level, and he has twice, he's been successful, College of Charleston and Winthrop. I think you can coach. I think that's the bottom line. Can you relate? Now the question is going to be not necessarily to me. Did you coach at Power 5 or were you a major college coach? The thing to me is how do you relate to the player in this day and age? And can you raise money? Can you raise NIL money? And can you be a sort of a capologist?
Yep, I mean that's it. You're a roster manager, a general manager, a salary cap manager, whatever you want to call it. It's a whole lot more than coaching, and you got to have somebody on your staff who kind of manages that. You can't do it all yourself, but you have to be the point man on that, and he seems to have embraced it, which is unfortunately, I don't think you and I have, but we understand that's the way it is. It's not going to change. So he's embraced that, and he's been aggressive with it, and it looks like he's put together a pretty good roster. But we'll all wait and see the great unknown when they put those guys on the floor together.
Look, everybody's put together a new roster. Memphis has only one player returning, and I just was looking at this thing, and I can't remember, but it seemed like a pretty reliable site where they had some sort of analytics rating the portal classes, not for just quantity, but for quality. And Louisville was like 17 and Memphis was 18. So neck and neck in that department. Thank you, my friend.
Right together again.
Yeah, we'll revisit in the summer later.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of it. Your horse is Sierra Leone. I think that is definitely going to mean that Seize the Gray is going to win this thing.
Most likely.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, see you, Dave.
That's Paul Rogers, voice on many fronts of Louisville. We take a break. When we come back, we go downtown. Our friend Jarvo, he's standing by. He's next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Powder Coating specializes in automotive, ornamental, residential, and industrial coating. With 2 conveyor lines and the largest batch ovens in the Mid-South, Rick's can accommodate all of your powder coating needs. Locally owned and operated since 2002, Rick's Powder Coating will customize a beautiful finish just for you. Drop by or call to see how Rick's Powder Coating can bring color to your life. 901-367-2771 or rickspowdercoating.com.
Everyone needs protection, whether you're on the field or on the road, so make sure you have the best. Bob Simpson State Farm Insurance can buckle you up with auto insurance, can back you up with life and health insurance, cover your business whether it's starting, growing, or maturing, and don't forget to insure your home, no matter if you're an owner or a renter. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call Bob Simpson today at 901-381-1233 or go online and get a free quote at bobsimpson.org. Stay protected with your good neighbor, Bob Simpson.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Ah, June. It's wedding season.
It is.
Or as I like to call it, Free Central Barbecue Month.
Who's what?
Well, not that I don't enjoy weddings. I do, especially the ones that I can tell are going to be a disaster. But what I love about weddings is that so many people choose Central Barbecue to cater the food at the reception.
You root for marriages to fail?
Not exactly root. I just enjoy drama and free barbecue. I like to sit there and enjoy my plate of Central Barbecue with beans and slaw and wait for things to blow up.
At the reception?
Ideally. I mean, I won't be around to see it otherwise. Plus, Free Central Barbecue.
We are going to head downtown, end our Thursdays as we always do with Jarvis Crew in a second. So I've been consistent all year long. I've picked the Boston Celtics. Porzingis is coming back. Can't hurt. I like them in this matchup with the Dallas Mavericks. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I really do, but I never got Zach Boyd's pick in all of this. You with me or against me here?
I am taking the Boston Celtics in 6.
So you and I are exactly the same. Pranica took the Dallas Mavericks. He's a West guy, That's his thing.
I feel like that's the trend. I feel like
well, 80% of the country that's betting on this game has taken Dallas, which means the odds maker in Vegas have done a pretty good job of enticing people to bet. That's for sure. Let's go downtown. Let's go to Jarvis Greer. Jarvo, who do you like in this series? Good morning.
Say that I've heard across the country and locally saying the Celtics 4-2 in 6 games. They win in 6 games. I would not be surprised to see the Mavericks win Game 1 tonight.
Really? Because
the Celtics have had a long layoff, and they're trying to figure out how to reestablish Porzingis into their lineup. And then Luka's just Luka. Kyrie is Kyrie. And they came off a hard-fought series against the Timberwolves, who are big and long, just as big and long as the Celtics are. But I don't know. Boston was the best team in the league by far, where they won 64 games during the year.
Yep.
That's kind of tough. They are used to it, and the pressure's on them. It's more on them than it is on Dallas to win it all. And this would be a big defining game for Jason Tatum, to really cement his status as, one of the top players in the league if they can knock off the Mavs. I would not be surprised if the Mavs won, but I think the Celtics have been the best team all year, and this is money time. This is it. This is ring time right now. And I would say they're about due, and that's the only reason, because you get the Mavericks in a game in the last 5 minutes, 3 minutes with Luka and Kyrie, and I think they're a bit more explosive than Brown and
Tatum.
That's what
I can't wait to see, and I hope the matchup is Brown on Luka, because Brown
he's not
is
as tall
so
as,
physical.
But he's very physical, and he's a big dude himself. So that would be the one that I would think. But I think they're going to run a whole bunch of people at Luka. They're not just going to leave
Jaylen Brown on him because you wear him out.
No
and I
question.
think that's what That's what Ant found out in the series, in the Timberwolves series. They tried to leave him on Luka the whole game, and he was worn out by the fourth quarter. And that's just hard to do, to have one guy try to guard a guy that's 6'9", 260 pounds, even though he is slow as Christmas. But he's just so big, and it's just hard to get to his shot.
And crafty.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You guys all know that Jarvo does a show every week on Grind City Media, so he's got incredible insight. In fact, I don't know if Zach Kleiman doesn't call you for advice.
King Kleiman, although he does live down here on the island with us. He's an island guy.
There you go.
And I see him up at Cordelia's every now and then.
So,
picking up some grocery.
The Ringer's Kevin O'Connor is saying the Grizzlies are going to trade that pick. They're going to try to move up to get, I think, Donovan Clingan, maybe Alex Sarr, but Clingan makes more sense to me. Is that going to happen? What is your gut feel?
Well, let me tell you what on Grizzbeat we had yesterday, which you've been on our program several times.
Great show.
The Michael Cole from the Commercial Appeal says he thinks the Grizzlies might trade down and then include a couple of players or one player on their roster already to get rid of some, not dead weight, but to get rid of a glut at the wing to try to, to do something with that.
Who would that guy be? Would it be because?
Well,
let's face
it. Z comes to mind. Zaire Williams is the first name comes to mind.
I would think so.
Yeah, and so that's what that's kind of what he's thinking, and that he is in tune with a lot of the writers around the league, and that's kind of one sense now. But who knows what Kleiman and Cho and the rest of those guys in the front office of the Grizzlies. Yeah, they're in the lab right now scheming and going over all the names and numbers and all the rest of that stuff, and they're already making calls. That I don't know if you'll hear about some calls being, some trades happening before the draft, but after the first pick, which everybody pretty much says is going to be Alexander Sarr, after that, the phone's going to be ringing off the wall for the rest of the lottery. And guys that get picked by a team, put on that cap, that may not be the cap they're wearing at the end of the night.
Do you think Luke Kennard could be a guy that's moved? Because his contract is more expensive than any of the other wings.
Yeah, he's at $14.5 million, and it's the thing is we haven't really had a chance to see what Luke Kennard means to this team since everybody's been hurt. When they first got him, okay, great, but then Ja gets hurt at the end of the year, and then he's on suspension to begin this year. And you don't know, and then Luke was out a while himself, and then everybody else in the Grizzlies got hurt, so you never really got a chance to see, that particular chemistry experiment work. How does it fit? We know it can shoot. He's one of the best shooters in the league over the past 3 years, if not the best from downtown. So there is a possibility and it's only because he makes so much money. It's only because of his contract, not because they don't like him as a player. But, it's more than that in professional basketball. Now, the numbers got to add up because you got to have other guys on the team that can either fill it up, maybe even at a lower rate. And one thing, that kind of getting casually thrown around, that if the Grizzlies stay at 9, they might go with Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee, who is, he's a heck of a shooter. And, but it might be on a deal where, okay, he comes in and plays for a while. They see how it works, and then when Luke Kennard's contract up for renewal next year, they might make that decision to come off of that money, for the cheaper guy that may also be able to fill that same role.
I would hope.
So there's a lot of questions.
Personally, my hope would be if they move down, as you have suggested, or stay at 9, they would be in the Filipowski-Edey area. They need a center. I'd go that way.
Yeah, well. They need a big man, but I'm thinking that whatever big man that they get, if they take one with whatever pick they end up with in the draft, right now they're at 9, that they're still going to go in free agency to try to find a veteran center that knows this, ready to bang right now. Because this is not a team on the come up. This is a team that's already there. They're ready to challenge, for the West Finals or even the NBA Finals.
Well, that may be true. If you look. That's the area of weakness. They've got plenty. They got the two great guards. It's hard to beat Ja and Bane, and then throw in Marcus Smart too, for goodness sakes, especially on defense. And you've got a nice.
Don't forget Vince. Don't forget Vince Williams
or J.G. Jackson. So you're plenty deep there. But other than Jaren Jackson Jr., you're really not so great up front. That is the area you have got to figure out. And so free agency and the draft may be the way to try to reload in that regard. Before I let you go, because I don't want to run out of time, what would you think about Danny Hurley? A massive deal maybe with the L.A. Lakers. Do you think he works as a pro coach?
I don't know, man. It's like, if he could be Brad Stevens, it would be a major hit because, Brad Stevens came out of college, and he's the last one, I think, to come out. Was he before Patino went to the Celtics?
Oh, yeah. No, he's way after that.
Yeah, he was after that.
He
was way after that.
And he only lasted as a coach. Did he last 2 years?
Yeah, for 2 years. He's been much better as a GM.
And then he went to the front office where he's been brilliant.
Yeah, he's been much better as a GM, but man, that's hard. Look at Beeline trying to come out, who had a great, college coaching career, and then the Big Ten, and then he goes and it totally flames out at Cleveland with a team that was pretty good on paper, but they couldn't stand it.
Look at Cal. Look at Rick Pitino. Both those guys. Yeah. Although, I don't think John ever had a full chance. He did. He had a lot of success in Boston. So that's kind of mixed, and I don't think Cal ever really got a fair shot.
Well, I think the main thing, Hurley's an X and O guy, and X's and O's are X's and O's. Everybody that worth his salt as a coach can do X's and O's. But when you get in the professional ranks with guys that are making more money than you, even though they were going to pay him $12 million or whatever, you cannot treat grown men like you treat college players. It just don't work. It's got to be the chemistry's got to be.
And first of all, and Pete Pranica made this point, and I think he's right on. You cannot have the intensity level that he has in those games.
Oh yeah, he's a wild man.
You can't do that 82 times, and then the playoffs. No, there's no way he'll have a heart attack.
He'd have a coronary. Yeah, he'd have a coronary and embolism and everything. Any other ism you might think with as crazy as he gets on the sideline. He'd have to chill out. He'd have to take several chill pills before they play.
No doubt. As always, my friend, I love chatting with you.
But, whatever LeBron wants, LeBron gets. So if he wants him, he'll be there.
You think that's the I don't know if this doesn't signal the fact that maybe the Lakers and LeBron might be parting. Who knows? We'll find out as time wears on. A lot of intrigue, stealing the thunder of the Celtics and the Mavs, at least for the moment. But
it's going to be a great series, though. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I do too. I can't wait. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk next Thursday.
Okay, Dave. Thank you.
That's Jarvis Greer on a myriad of topics. That'll do it for us today. Zach and I are both in on the Boston Celtics all the way. Final portion of the show brought to you by the good folks at Family Leisure. We're sitting in the Family Leisure studio, but you got to get to I-40 and Whidden Road to enjoy the summertime party. That's the sale. It's summer. It's time to party. 24-foot above ground pools under $2,000, all ladders, filter systems, and the robotic cleaners. I've got one. 20% off. You can get 50% off on select in-stock patio furniture, play gyms up to $1,000 off. Kids love those. You'll love everything about Family Leisure. Get there. Tell Billy, tell Lindsay we sent you. You're going to save because it's the party of the summer at Family Leisure. That'll do it for us. Johnny Radio's right around the corner. We'll have our usual fun on Friday. We'll see you then. Have a great day, everybody.